You spent countless hours in the garage with your dad. Now investing in that old car and working on it with your son reminds you of him. And his legacy lives on. Fund your passion with a low-interest home equity line of credit from Bank of Blue Valley.
Oh, hey, Will.
Scott, what's happening?
Not much. I didn't tell Erin this, but she logged in on my computer because we did the show together last week, but I didn't tell her it's still up. So I was looking to see if she laughed when I appeared, and she didn't laugh. So now I don't think if I make her laugh when I do it, but who cares about that? How are you doing, Will? How are things rocking at Bank of Blue Valley?
Things are going great. Appreciate the opportunity to be back with you. You know, it's I think we say the same thing, every time we get together, but things are really busy. There's a lot going on in the economy. There's a lot of things going on in the market, and we're as busy as ever. Doing consultative work with our customers and prospects, and having a lot of fun doing it.
See, we can say the same thing every time, but only the loyal listeners will catch on to that because really
true, right?
They care about the guests. But we were talking about Bank of Blue Valley and Bob Rainier that you've worked with, and his ability to be radically candor in the most polite way. And so right before jumping on the show, we were talking to our guest about that. And so speaking of that, we want to know who the audience is, where they're tuning in from. It's like Anchorman. If it pops up there, Will is going to read it. Aaron's going to pop it up on the screen. And but we do want to say that Bank of Blue Valley and Burns & McDonnell, they're always hiring. And there's a lot of action going on. You are lending to a lot of projects that Burns & Mac is building. So before we get going and introducing our guest here in the next 2 minutes, give us a little bit of what you're feeling in terms of how things are growing in the economy and what Bank of Blue Valley is doing to help their clients do that.
Well, I think that's kind of a question for a show in itself, but I would say that segment by segment is a little different. We still think that companies are very strong, very healthy. We're trying to help provide some guidance through this rising rates and maybe, see if companies really want to go through with some of their CapEx or some of their projects. But for the most part, we're having a lot of positive conversations. Things are going well, and we continue to be growing ourselves, hiring and growing the Bank of Blue Valley team.
That's right. Well, again, listeners, tell us where you're tuning in from. We'll be sprinkling in questions here or there, but it's kind of cool to be doing a show with Bank of Blue Valley and Burns McDonnell and our guests because they're community pillars that in times of growth or in times of growing, they're partners that we all need. So I can see Erin's, because now I have this new view. She forgot to log out, but I'm going to see if she's getting ready to gear the music because now we can do hand signs with each other.
Really?
No, she hates it. I can see her shaking her head. This is awesome. All right. Without any further ado, it is our guest, Gail Worth.
Hey.
See, you see now I can see this, and Erin's going to come over, or she's going to contact my wife to get this logged out. But Gail, it's a short question, and we're so glad to have you on the show. But get the audience ready to roll with how did you get to Kansas City and what you're doing today?
Well, I was born and raised in Kansas City. And I started working for my parents at their Harley Davidson dealership back in 1980. They bought the dealership in 77. And golly, I bought one of their dealerships from them and turned the name to Gail's Harley Davidson, and here I am today.
So growing up in Kansas City myself, and Will's going to ask the next question, but you just get the audience going in the business vibe. I mean, I've heard your name everywhere. And it's a reflection of the growth of your business, but also as a random person that was not around motorcycles, it was hard not to hear your name. Can you talk about when you took over leadership or before, the marketing side of how, as a Kansas Citian, we know your name?
Okay, so when I first got into the management side of my dealership, I wanted to become the number one dealership in the country. And I knew in order to do that, I needed to first become the number one dealership in Kansas City. And in order to do that, I needed everybody to know me. And in order to do that, I needed to get out there and meet people. So I made it my mission in life to meet everybody. I went to so many after hours and lunch networking events almost every day of every week. It's probably an exaggeration, probably 3 times a week though. I was somewhere shaking hands and kissing babies. And I met as many people as I possibly could. And I think that's how I got my name out there. And of course, lots and lots of advertising. Spent lots of money.
Well, I was going to ask you about the advertising front, because I think in this era of social media, people really want to get to know other people. They want to see the personality kind of come through. And I think that's probably true in face-to-face interactions also. But I'm trying to think back of a time where I can't remember a time where I didn't hear you on the radio at some point. And your tagline has got to be one of the most well-known in Kansas City. You have to share it with
every day since used to have fun. I
mean, that is kind of a Kansas City tagline. I can't remember a time in my life where that hasn't been present. So
thank you. Well, okay. So here's the interesting thing. When I look back at my time, I made that huge before social media.
Yeah.
So it was all a lot of legwork, a lot of legwork, and lots of money on the radio, and making friends with all the DJs. It's Slacker in particular, and the morning show on KY102. They were pretty amazing. Remember them? Remember the good old days?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And Moffett.
Yeah.
We were all good friends, and so when they needed a special guest, then I was always available for them. And almost every radio station, it was great because I would talk about anything. They didn't matter what they wanted to talk about. They knew that they could have me on and I would have a conversation with them, and I wouldn't say, "Oh no, you can't ask me that." You know, they could say anything and I was just right there with them. So I think that helped to get me out there in front of people. And it was a lot of work to get all this done before social media.
Well, you did a great job. Like I said, you were trending before trending was a thing.
Thank you.
Which is pretty cool.
The question I have is, it's a selfish one, but a lot of the audience also wants to know, because there are people that are really getting going in their careers and they're wanting to learn, how do I get out and about all the time? How long were you at that 3 event a week, multi-coffee a day click? So how long did you do it, and for how long? Because now the city's a little bit like your oyster, so you don't have to do a lot of it. But how long so when did you start and how long did it take?
Oh boy. I probably started when I was 35 and I was nonstop till I was 45. Probably 40. I was probably nonstop for 5 years. It probably took me 5 good years of just busting it. And then I slowed down a lot after that. The interesting thing was it took a lot of my time away, and that's about the time I got divorced. So there is that. I did it. That work-life balance wasn't there. So we're still great friends today, but I think I just I worked my marriage into the ground. You know what I'm saying?
No, totally. Because I think there's a people that have to kind of study the formula of what it does and how long it takes to get to the point where they know a lot of people in business. And I know I'll have Will ask the next question, but for you personally, when it comes to hiring, a little bit of a curveball here. I feel like maybe I'm guessing you go off a lot of gut in some ways.
Yep.
So explain to the audience when you are interviewing or hiring or partnering what you look for.
First thing is their handshake. If they don't have a firm handshake, some people have that fish handshake. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The little fish handshake when they shake hands with a woman, they're like this. It's like, oh, we're out. Can't deal with that. No. Because if you're a woman and you're going to buy a motorcycle, you do not want to think that man thinks that you're too frail to shake hands with them. So first thing is the handshake. Look at me straight in the eye and being firm and direct, and that's the number one first 7 seconds, or maybe 2 seconds.
Yep.
But it's all gut. It really is. It's a lot of gut. The managers of each department do the first meeting, and I just swoop in later. And if they pass their muster, then I'll swoop in after that. Meeting number 2 and shake hands and meet them, and then I walk away and give them a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and if I like them, that's fantastic. If I don't like them, then they know that they're out, regardless of what they think of them.
I like that test. That makes sense. So I was looking for some information, Gail, and we're not to jump around, but you've had kind of a very fascinating business history, going to where you're at now, and growing up or in the business, as you mentioned earlier. So at what point did you own your own Harley dealership?
Started working for my parents when I was 18 and maybe 16. And I bought the dealership when I turned 35. And I moved it from Belton to Grandview. I built this huge place in Grandview 5 years later. So when I was 40, I moved into here, and that's what happened.
And so
dealership.
About what year was that?
Well, I'm 58 now. So do the math. 18 years ago. 18 years ago, I moved to Grandview.
Okay.
So when I was 35, I bought the dearship.
Okay.
So whatever, you can calculate that out.
So I was trying to, and the reason I asked is I thought it was interesting that you have, I believe, one of the most well-known dealerships and brands, personal brand, and then a dealership in Kansas City area, now with Gail's Powersports. But there was I was trying to figure out how many women were owners of dealerships, and I couldn't find a great stat, but it looked like back in 2013, there was 650 Harley dealerships around the U.S., and only 20 were owned by women. So 3% ownership, and you predated that. So are you one of the first to that club? What how was that as becoming one of the early women in owning a Harley dealership in the U.S.?
Well, it was actually pretty cool. When I dove into this, I never dove into it thinking, oh man, I'm a woman in a man's world. Never dawned on me, probably because I was raised amongst motorcycles, and even before motorcycles, my dad was into cars, and so I was always around the male dominated fields, and so I never thought that. And my dad was really good about not treating me like I was a girl. So it just there were no girls, there were no women. This is so funny. So back in I was 26, maybe 27. I sold the financing. I worked in the business office, and I was the number one person in the country in the Harley Davidson field. And so the motor company sent me to Hawaii. They had a big event in Hawaii that year. And so they wanted to teach their dealers how to do what I was doing. And so they sent me to Hawaii to help train. And so I went out there, and I was all prepared, all ready to go. I had no clue what I was about to go into, though. But I walked into the first session, and there was this, I don't know, probably 75 guys, and they were all in their beards, and they're all people I've seen all the time, but suddenly they look mean. And they all were like this, and they had this gruff look on their faces. Who does she think she is, trying to tell us what to do? Oh my gosh, they were not nice to me at all. And it was the most horrible experience. I had to do that for an hour. And then I had to do it again like an hour later, and then again. And so by the end of the weekend, oh, I was crushed. It was terrible. I was like, oh no, this is terrible. I had no idea that I was going to be going through that. That's the first time I realized how I stuck out.
Okay. Yeah.
I was.
Yeah. Well, they're probably also judging their own personalities versus you. It was probably a tough room for a lot of different reasons.
It really, really was. I had made up my mind at that point that I would never, ever put myself in that situation again. And that week, I signed up for a Dale Carnegie training and learned how to win friends and influence people. And it changed my life. So,
wow. So I was thinking, I was going to turn around. Did that moment in time motivate you or inspire you? Meaning, did you want to stick it to someone, or did you want to prove them wrong, or were you inspired? But you're saying that you felt like you were unprepared in that moment because you're the number one in the country, but you're saying you were unprepared on the public speaking side.
Correct. Yes. Yep. And so I knew that I needed to be more prepared. And so it inspired me. It's what it did. It inspired me to be much, much better. And from that moment on, I was always ready. I was always ready for anybody to come at me with anything. And it's all because of Dale Carnegie.
Well, speaking of prepping for a show, when Will's looking at stats from 2013, that's why Bank of Blue Valley is just a class act and a great organization. Yes. The first and literally the only book I've read multiple times is Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, because I'm a dyslexic kid, and a 11-hour trip to Grand Rapids, Michigan to visit grandparents was enough to read like a couple chapters. So over multiple trips, I got the hang of it. So did reading that book also coincide with doing the 35 to 40 year old just networking rush that you did at that period of time? How did that coordinate together, and where did you find you loved people to do that?
Well, my experience that led me to Dale Carnegie was about 8 years before I bought the dealership, and so I can't really tell you how the two
maybe it didn't connect. Yeah.
So Gail, quick question, and maybe I'll let you choose where you want to focus, but built this beautiful dealership in Grandview, become one of the best known brands, the Harley dealerships in Kansas City. You've gone through a little change with some of the name. Maybe you could speak a little bit about where you started and where you're at today, and what's changed, and maybe what hasn't that people think has changed.
Okay. Well, about 2 years ago, almost exactly to the day, 2 years ago in a month, I walked away from Harley Davidson Motor Company, and I became Gail's Powersports, and now I'm Gail's Famous Motorcycles, because I just didn't want to be under the thumb of Harley Davidson anymore. And it just, golly, I wanted something different. The direction of Harley Davidson is very corporate. And first of all, Harley's amazing. And I'm still selling Harley Davidsons. It's just I'm not selling brand new ones. I think that the direction that the motor company is going is just, they're just on fire. They're just fantastic. It's just that a different direction than I wanted to go, because I got into I got into Harley Davidson because I love the sport and the people and the whole bigness of Harley Davidson. And the motor company is becoming more corporate. And, it's just, everything's got to be a certain way, and everything's got to look a certain way. Everything's got to, it's no longer individualized, the whole, biker thing. And, but the motorcycles are. So that's why I walked away from the motor company and not the motorcycles. That makes sense. And so I had to rely on my personal brand to move us forward here at Gail's, because that was the scary part. It's like, what happens once I drop Harley Davidson? I mean, once Gail's Harley Davidson is just Gail's. And it worked out. The people of Kansas City stood behind me. There are some people who haven't stood behind me, and they've chosen to go on their own way and go to other dealerships, and that's fine. I don't blame them if that's their thing. But there's a lot of people who have stuck around and helped me walk through this whole thing with me, because it took 2 years of growing to get to where we are today, because it was way different. I tried everything. I even sold lawnmowers. I tried everything, whatever it took, whatever I had to sell, I was selling it to make money, but now we're back to our roots, and that's Harley Davidson. And we still sell Harleys, and they're all pre-owned Harleys, but you would never know it, because I'm very, very picky about the motorcycles we put on our floor. And most of them have, less than 5,000 miles on them. And they're beautiful motorcycles, and they have to pass muster. I have to feel good about riding them myself. If I would be out there riding them myself, then I will put them on the floor and sell them. If I wouldn't feel comfortable, then I send them to auction.
Yeah, two quick questions. Focus on the business one. The second one you'll remember. The first one is, it seems to me you can do it. You don't need middlemen or women, and so you can just do it on the own because the brand you built. It's a luxury after decades of hard work that other people can. So explain to the audience, the distributor model, because that's just a model in general. And then secondly, isn't all business partnerships are a little like a marriage. So kind of talk about I don't know if there was a grieving process or what. Obviously, you're better off because you can do it, but I'm sure it wasn't an easy one. So distribution model, marriage of partners.
Okay. So first of all, the divorce, if you will, of from Harley Davidson, it was gut wrenching. I mean, it really was. If you can only imagine. I mean, when you get a divorce in a marriage, two people, when they get divorced, even if it's absolutely the right thing to do, it still kills you. It's just still it breaks it. And boy, I was part of Harley Davidson my entire life. I'm 58 years old. I started when I was 18, so I was part of Harley that entire time. And to break that marriage was really hard, but I knew I could do it. I just knew it. And if I went about this any other way, it would not have worked. But I knew I could do it, and I didn't let the naysayers, which, oh my gosh, there were a lot of them. There still are a lot of them today. Oh my gosh, you made such a stupid decision. But I just didn't listen to them, because I had made the decision. I had to move forward, and it doesn't matter. They can say what they want, and it could be the stupidest decision on the planet, but I can't think that. It is the greatest decision ever. I'm going forward. And so I'm just continuing to look at that star up in the sky and going straight for it, because I can't think of anything else but that. So that's what I think about that.
I was just looking at the time. I can see why the DJs loved you in Kansas City. The energy, this time's flying by. So I might try to rush into another question here. There's a wide gamut of people that'll watch this today. And so for the entrepreneurs out there, from someone who's done it on your own, what are some advice you find that you frequently give out to people that are just starting the business or wanting to start their own business?
okay, do your homework. Do your homework and know what it is you want to do. And when you've done your homework and you know that it's the right thing to do, just do it. Don't listen to everybody else tell you that it's a stupid idea. If you feel it in your heart and you know that you have done all the due diligence and it will succeed, then make it work, man. Because if you hesitate, it's not going to work. You step off that cliff, you have to know that there's a step underneath you. And if you hesitate, then you're just going to tumble right on down. Also, help other people. Help other people along the way, because when you do stumble or something does happen, then you're going to need them there to help you. And they're not going to be there if you're not there for them.
Both great pieces of advice. I like that.
Thank you. As you look into the future of what you want your business to feel and look like, even though it's all your culture's there, it's ingrained, but just to the audience, what do you want it to look like 3 years from now and 5 years from now?
Oh my goodness, that's a really good question. I want to have an amazing writers group. It's the Heartland Writers Adventure Group, and I want them to be big. I want them to be big and writing every single day like they are right now. But I want it to be bigger. I want it to be like Harley Davidson big. And golly, I want to make enough money that I can give back to everybody. I mean, I want to give back to anybody who needs me. I'm going to be there for them. And because people were there for me, I just want to be there for them.
No, I was going to, and I'm selfish. I've got to see this firsthand, having served on a board with you, but your philanthropic endeavor. I mean, you're very gracious with your time. You do a great job of raising money for some fun. What are some of the areas in town that you're supportive that maybe people aren't aware of? But because I know you have rides that are very well attended and very, very generous for for some organizations.
Thank you. I do. I'm hoping that people know that my number one love is the boys in blue, the boys and girls in blue. I mean, men and women. They're the cops, man. They've got my heart. I love the cops. I love the veterans, the firefighters, and the dogs. That's my group. You know, anybody who is willing to lay down their life for me, man, I'm there for you.
Your work that you've done has been fantastic, and you have helped a lot of people in town and not taking credit for it, which I think is very cool. But thanks for all you do on the philanthropic side.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Will.
I like it. There's a lot more to it that I have no idea about, but I love finding out through the business community when someone's behind something, kind of like Bob Rainier that we were referencing a little bit earlier. And so, Gail, I'm picking up what Will is putting down, but that's kind of cool that you like to do things without a lot of other people knowing it. And so for the people, as you grow your company, who are you looking to bring on board? What areas are you looking to expand?
Oh gosh. Right now I'm not looking to bring any additional, I mean, amazingly enough, we've got it. We will need salespeople going into the spring, but right now we've got we're lean and mean. And I like that. Going into the winter time in the motorcycle business, you have to be lean and mean. So that's where we're at. It's really awesome.
Yeah, I feel like that should be something for all of us going into the holiday season, is to be lean and mean, but yet we don't do it. We all dip down. So
are you talking business or personal there, Scott?
Ignore me. One thing I'd like to ask you before we arrive, we just finished Halloween, so we have Thanksgiving. So fun question. What is the one dish you have to have for Thanksgiving? And then I'll have Will wrap up the show here.
Okay. Well, this is kind of a crazy dish, but my bonus daughter makes an amazing spinach and strawberry salad. I love it. So I got to have it.
All right. Will, wrap us up.
No, and I think the thing that resonated, you see Raquel with on LinkedIn, do your homework. Another example of you kind of giving back to community, giving some tidbits. Gail, appreciate all you do. And like I said, I can't imagine there being a time when there's not hearing Gail on the radio or seeing Gail in the ads. And congratulations on all your success. It's very, a staple of Kansas City.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right. Well, thank you to Bank of Blue Valley and Burns and McDonnell, and thank you, Gail. We will end as soon as Aaron ends the show. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.